So, you may have noticed the severe lack of television reviews last week. Last week for me, IRL was pretty different than I'm used to. I had a lot of stuff come up last minute and a lot of things I had to do above and beyond my work here on the channel that kept me from doing everything that I would have liked to do. And quite frankly, TV reviews were the first thing to get relegated to a different time. That being this week, of course. And to make up for the fact that I didn't get any TV reviews up last week, I will be doing 5 reviews of Steven Universe episodes this week, 1 each day. I will at some point be reviewing the winter finale for Doctor Who, though this is going to double as my impressions video on the entire season so far. So I really want to wait and make sure I've gotten that completely right before I air it. However, there will be a 6th review this Saturday or Sunday, depending on how much time I have to do it, that will discuss a particular film that I am going to see this Friday that I think a lot of you might be interested in hearing my opinion on. Either way, on to the review, the first review of this week, Rose's Room, the 19th episode of Steven Universe. This is the first episode that I feel like really succeeds in showing just how, not so much dangerous, but disturbing the idea of gem magic can actually be. We've seen Pearl get hurt in Stephen the Sword Fighter, and we've seen the duplication wand, which had some very unusual and dangerous connotations to it. But Stephen the Sword Fighter was more addressing mortality than the nature of gems themselves, and the duplication wand is never shown again, so I don't really count it, which I've talked about in length. In this episode, we see something that is specific to gem magic, and we see something that is very meaningfully impactful to Steven himself. Spoilers in this review, of course, in case you didn't already know that. Anyway, this episode starts out, Steven has just finished eating 4 cans of creamed corn to get the labels off of them, because I guess he didn't realize he could just take the labels off of them. Because the gems have told him they have the whole day off to spend with him, and he wants to go to mini golf, and there's coupons for mini golf on the labels to the cans. And again, why didn't he just cut the label up? Whatever, it's fine. It's Steven, it's all Steveniness, and I shouldn't expect anything more or less at this point. Steven is going to do what Steven does. But anyway, the gems have a mission that they need to go on. Garnet has learned of a powerful artifact, a dangerous artifact that has come active again somewhere up by the North Pole, I think she says. So they need to go retrieve it, and Steven's all bummed because he got out his dad's old golf clubs. He found some of his dad's old golf pants that he was going to let Garnet wear. He was all excited. Now he's all bummed because he has to stay home by himself. So he passes the time playing on his N64 this game that is this absolutely hilarious fusion of Final Fantasy and mini golf. I don't know where the creators of the show came up with this idea, but I think this game should be made. It sounds awesome. In a parody kind of way, obviously. And throughout the entire day and night, he manages to play through the entire game. He gets to the secret ending of the game. He's all excited for it. And the gems get back, and they interrupt him, and they end up breaking the TV with the artifact, which is the Wailing Stone, which we'll see again in a few episodes. And so he's all ticked off, and for the first time ever, really, he genuinely wants a place where he can go, where he can be away from everybody else. And Rose's door opens for him to Rose's room. And Rose's room is so hard to describe. It's like, imagine a giant fairy world of clouds that you can mold into anything with just a thought, but it has all the potential to go bad as the holodeck from Star Trek. And it's tied to the subconscious of a small child. I can't think of anything more potentially horrifying than that. And everything seems to go good at first. Steven walks around in Cloud World for a while. He creates a TV with his mind that he can use to watch the secret ending to his video game, which I'm almost 100% positive is not the real secret ending, because it's implied in a later episode that he would have had to have seen the secret ending in order to actually see it again in the room, but that's an entirely different story. But either way, Steven seems satisfied, but now he's hungry. He wants something to eat, and the room can't actually make physical objects that he can consume. The objects in here are even less substantial, it seems, than the holographic bodies belonging to gems. So he wants to leave and go get a donut. The door reappears, and he leaves to go get a donut. And everything seems pretty quiet at first, but you don't really think much of it. You think the gems have probably just gone off on another mission or something. But then Steven gets to the big donut, and Lars and Sadie are there, and you get this kind of invasion of the body snatchers kind of vibe from them. They just don't seem like themselves. They behave incorrectly. They disappear when Steven tries to follow them back behind the counter. And things just continue to get stranger and stranger as he walks through town. People are standing around not really doing anything that you would expect them to do. Frybo is there, Connie is there, which she should be out of town at this point, and then things start glitching into each other. And it feels a lot like a video game when either you stumble upon a really creepy glitch or a really creepy glitch has been incorporated into the game to freak you out. And Steven starts to lose it. People just start appearing randomly around him. They don't look right. They are actually using their distant models, which I thought was a really cool way of portraying that there was something not right about them, to use their distant models for showing them up close. Very neat animation technique. And then Steven, he kind of falls through the world, and he ends up at his dad's car wash, and his dad seems normal enough. They talk. His dad eats one of the donuts that Steven's carrying and starts to give Steven advice, but it doesn't seem quite applicable to the situation, and then he just keeps giving advice over and over again and taking the same bite out of the donut over and over again. And at this point, the audience has figured out what Steven is just now figuring out, that he's still in the room. Because at first it seemed like the room was giving him what he asked for, but really it's tied to his subconscious. So the room knew that he wasn't really ready to go out there and talk to the gems again, so it did its best to give him the outside world as he said he wanted, while still keeping him in the room like he actually wanted. But at this point, the room has just done too much, and the world starts to collapse around Steven, and now he genuinely wants to leave, so the actual door reappears. He ends up in the real world, and apologizes to the gems because he realized you can't always get what you want. And they try to pass this off as a moral episode. No, this was a horror episode, and it was freaking scary. Like, Steven's reactions were entirely appropriate while he was in the room, but then he just immediately calms down once he's out of it, which is probably the one complaint I have about this episode, is that they try to give it a little kid-friendly bookend there at the end, where he and the gems go mini-golfing, and it's absolutely adorable. Garnet's actually wearing the golf pants. It's the cutest thing. But I don't feel like it did justice to this episode, which otherwise was very disturbing, and I think would have left a much stronger impression if it had ended with Steven, like, genuinely upset by what he had seen. Of course, you could also argue that that just isn't Steven, that he has been immersed in this world enough that even if he does encounter something that's different than what he's encountered before, he's seen enough creepy stuff that he's able to move past it. Still, I don't think that's healthy for the kid, but what do I know? I'm not one of the writers on Steven Universe. And either way, this is a really great episode. The room itself doesn't leave a huge impact on the lore. I would imagine they're going to revisit it more in the future. They already have a couple of times, in fact. So I don't, have any issue with it being introduced to the series. And it does bring a lot of potential in, don't get me wrong. I just feel like this episode had two stages. It had creepy and then not creepy, and that they didn't gel well together, and that it just could have been a lot better than it even was. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this episode? Let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow.